Now, school dinners are disrupted by the shortage of HGV drivers. Schools are already planning to restrict choices at lunchtime amid uncertainty over food supplies.
Our suppliers are saying that they don't have any drivers, so they can't get any orders to us. And so we don't have pasta, we can't get flour, we can't get yogurt.
So what will be on and indeed off the menu this winter? We look at the challenges facing school caterers. Also tonight, the cost of living crisis. Energy bills are expected to soar yet again. Winter sunshine for some, with dozens of destinations coming off the red list. A new broom at Newcastle as Mike Ashley gets the final whistle. And
where's your wedding ring? And I was like, oh no.
Trouble and strife for Andy Murray, and it's all down to a pair of smelly trainers.
This is the ITV Evening News with Mary Nightingale.
Good evening. The alarming impact of the shortages blighting Britain has spread from our farms and our supermarkets to limit even what's put on school dinner plates. ITV News has learned that one of the UK's biggest school caterers is warning head teachers to stockpile food in case supplies run out over the winter. ISS, which caters for hundreds of schools, suggests ham sandwiches should be taken off the menu and says it doesn't have enough tinned fruit, soft drinks, margarine or mayonnaise. It warns the shortages could last until February next year. It is not an isolated case either, as our business editor Joel Hills now reports.
At Newnham Croft Primary School, they're making pizza for lunch. The problem the head chef has is she's running low on flour.
Our suppliers are saying that they don't have any drivers, so they can't get any orders to us. And so we don't have pasta, we can't get flour, we can't get yogurt, we can't get a variety of items, and so we're having to think on our feet.
And so they've gone to Iceland, ordering from a supermarket what the supplier couldn't deliver. Some products are becoming scarce and prices are rising.
Freezer's full because we don't know what supplies we can get.
We're not worried about whether we'll be able to feed the children in the next week or two, but the impact, the cumulative impact on the kids and the school in the longer term, I am worried, yes.
The supplier here is Bidfood, which acknowledges it is having problems, and it isn't alone. ISS is an international company that offers logistics and other support to private companies and the public sector. In England, it cooks meals for 450 primary and secondary schools every day. ITV News has seen an email sent to schools a week ago which says ISS is having issues with the sourcing, packing and distribution of food, and that supply problems will get worse and are likely to last until February. The company asked kitchen staff to top up on long-life, dried, tinned and frozen products to ensure there will always be some form of food available in a worst-case scenario. A slide deck presentation listed tinned fruit, fresh yoghurt and bread as some of the products in shortest supply.
In a statement, ISS told us its priority is always schools and the children. The company says it has contingency plans in place and wants to reassure parents and carers that it will continue to provide nutritious school meals despite the well-publicised shortages of items the UK is currently experiencing.
This morning we told the Education Secretary about this issue and asked whether all schools have been asked to stockpile food as a precaution.
That's news to me. I haven't seen that news story yet. I will certainly, as we end this interview, be contacting that canteen provider to find out what their particular concern is.
A government spokesperson later told us there's no evidence of widespread supply issues, that the government routinely consider contingency arrangements and expects schools and catering companies to do the same.
Just doesn't leave it to the market.
But the Liberal Democrats say their network of 2,400 local councillors are reporting problems across the country.
Schools are having to be super resourceful and they are coping under real stress. The worry is this is going to get worse and worse and worse. The government were warned months and months ago about the supply chain problems, and frankly, they've done almost nothing.
At Newnham Croft, despite the pressure and frustration, they're still managing to serve healthy and hot food. The aim is to keep it that way.
Well, Joel joins us from Cambridge tonight. So, look, Joel, these shortages are spreading, aren't they, further afield? How bad could this get?
Well, the government is making it clear, Mary, that we're not going to get to a situation where any child goes without. It points out that during lockdown they provided for children, including the 1.7 million, of course, who rely on and receive free school meals. The situation, the government said, is stable, it's manageable, and if it does deteriorate, they will intervene immediately. Tonight, the Liberal Democrats, though, is reporting pockets of problems in Stafford, in Hull, in Manchester and other parts of Lancashire, in Hertfordshire and in Lambeth, down in London. The Department for Education, of course, is only responsible for school meals at the 21,000 schools in England. We've approached the devolved administrations to find out what the picture is there. We don't know yet. Labour tonight is saying a plan to recruit and train more drivers now is urgently needed, or this chaos will continue. No school must be left without the food supplies it needs, and no child left going hungry. The criticism here is not that the government isn't doing anything, it's that it was warned months ago it should do something, and it didn't follow the advice from businesses.
All right, Joel Hills in Cambridge, thank you. And Nestlé is the latest firm to admit that it is experiencing supply chain issues. The company says it could affect the festive favourite Quality Street, but it says it is working hard to try to make sure the chocolates make it onto the shelves for the Christmas period. So with shortages threatening to push the cost of living even higher, there was another unwelcome warning today about rising energy bills. Analysts predict the energy price cap, that's the maximum amount customers on default tariffs can be charged, will soar by a further £400 next year. And for businesses who aren't shielded by any cap, rising energy bills will eventually mean rising prices for consumers too. Here's our political correspondent, Libby Vina.
The lights may not be going out, but could the toilet rolls run out? Well, at this Derbyshire factory, which recycles paper used to make them, they say the huge rise in energy prices has ripped up their business model and they may be forced to halt production.
Over the next few months, if help's not forthcoming and the gas price and the energy price remains as it is, that could be the ultimate, that there are shortages in the supply chains.
While industry is not protected by any price cap, domestic consumers are. But that doesn't look like it will save them from another steep rise next year. Prior to the 1st of October, the cap was set at £1,138 a year. That has since risen to £1,277. And energy analysts have predicted it could rise a further 30% by the spring, to around £1,660. The business secretary was reluctant to answer questions today. Are you going to intervene to cap the cap? Have you got nothing to say about the crisis, business secretary? No words of reassurance for the public as to what you might do to help them or businesses?
Thank you.
Earlier, he told energy companies that more could go out of business.
I think it's going to be a difficult time. We may well see, although I don't want to prejudge this, we may well see companies going out of the market.
Labour says the government has simply been too slow to switch to alternative sources of energy.
This is a crisis that is of the government's own making, because while there are global trends, we are dangerously exposed as a country because of decisions made and not made by government over the last decade. Failures on gas storage, failures on renewables, failures on nuclear energy.
The industry itself says the current crisis is a wake-up call for the country.
I think what's become obvious to people, if they weren't aware before, is how much energy underpins the rest of the economy. So when gas price spiked yesterday, the FTSE 100 lost 1.2%, right? So energy prices in the wider economy are interrelated.
If those prices continue to rise, many businesses fear they will no longer be able to survive. The Prime Minister didn't mention the energy crisis in his big speech to his party conference in Manchester yesterday. But if prices do rise as predicted, it's a crisis that he may have to grapple with sooner rather than later.
Libby Vina in Westminster, thank you. Well, if all that has left you feeling you rather want to get away from it all, then there was some good news for you today. The government has slashed the number of countries on the red travel list to just 7. And from later this month, fully vaccinated arrivals in England will not have to take an expensive PCR test. As Rebecca Barry reports, it's being welcomed by those who've been kept apart for so long.
We've been taken off the red list, so we can fly and visit and hug and all the rest.
Christmas has come early.
You're going to book tickets home for Christmas, Mum.
Wonderful. It would be absolutely wonderful.
This is the closest Kate's been to her mum in South Africa for nearly 2 years, because it's been on the red list and isolating in an expensive quarantine hotel made a visit impossible. But soon, that's changing.
Well, that's given me chills immediately because it means I can go and book tickets. So yeah, it'll mean a lot for us as a family. For my child to see his grandmother, who he absolutely dotes on.
England's travel red list is being cut down from 54 to just 7 countries. It means from Monday, people will be able to travel to places like South Africa, Brazil and Mexico without having to pay to quarantine in a hotel on their return. And from late October, expensive PCR tests for fully vaccinated returning travellers will be replaced by cheaper lateral flow tests.
Well, of course, we know that coronavirus can and does change. But having said that, after a year and a half and our whole country vaccinated, other countries becoming highly vaccinated as well, we've got a level of stability that we've just not had in the last year and a half. And that's really why today we're able to take this major step forward in both simplifying and opening up the world to travel.
As the planes take off and land here at Heathrow, there are finally glimmers of hope on the horizon, both for families hoping to reunite or those simply wanting to get away for half term, and of course for businesses battered by the pandemic.
But some say dropping PCR testing is a gateway for new variants.
Have really high case numbers in the UK already, and so dropping one of our single best surveillance strategies for understanding what viruses are circulating in the UK and coming into the UK is ill-timed.
Can't wait to give you a hug, Mum.
But Kate is wasting no time booking so she can make up for lost time. Rebecca Barry, ITV News.
And for full details on what the changes are and what they mean for you, then go to our website, itv.com/holiday news. Still to come on the ITV News, a special report on the victims of hate crime and their search for justice. And why Andy Murray is in the bad books of his wife, Kim. Do find out what all that's about when you join me after the break. Hello and welcome back. ITV News has learned that the number of hate crimes reported to police has doubled in 5 years to more than 100,000. That's an average of 275 crimes every day in England and Wales, including racist and homophobic abuse. But an investigation by ITV News and Liberty Investigates has found that many cases are abandoned. And a warning, this special report from our Northern England reporter, Hannah Miller, contains images you may find upsetting.
Where to?
Up there. I was feeling really frightened and nervous because they asked me where I'm from and I should go back to my own country.
11-year-old Ocean was sitting in the park when a group of girls subjected her to a racist assault for having an English mum and an Indian dad. The attack on Ocean is too brutal to show, but this is the aftermath. As her sister runs to help, she too is beaten. Both girls had to go to hospital.
It's left me feeling really, really upset, and I don't even like going shops by myself.
3 months on, they're still waiting for a decision on whether action will be taken. But Ocean's mum says at times she contemplated pulling out of the process because of a lack of support.
I've not got no support other than what I'm doing for myself to get justice for my girls, and I'm dealing with it on my own.
How confident are you that someone will actually get prosecuted for this?
I'm not got much confidence at all.
An investigation by ITV News and Liberty Investigates found the number of hate crime reports has more than doubled since 2015 to over 100,000 in 2020. But of those, police only resolved around 14,000 cases, fewer than 5 years ago. And increasing numbers of hate crime victims are choosing to abandon police investigations, more than 30,000 last year.
What do you think's going on with these stats?
One of the country's leading officers on hate crime admits forces need to do more to work with those affected.
I think that trust with the communities most affected by hate crime is a big issue. There's automatically going to be a difficulty with them coming forward. And then when they come forward, if there is a slight glitch or a slight delay, then potentially that might be something that causes them to pull out.
I have woke up thinking about it.
Lee and his partner were beaten and stabbed in a homophobic attack during a night out in Birmingham. West Midlands police say they followed several lines of inquiry, but Lee believes they missed opportunities. None of the attackers have been identified.
I am literally on my knees begging for the police to take me seriously.
They say they've done a full investigation into what happened. What do you say to that?
They haven't done a full investigation. I don't honestly believe it.
The Home Office said in a statement that hate crime is utterly unacceptable and individuals should rightly face the full force of the law. But for Ocean, Lee and tens of thousands of victims who are scarred by attacks that strike at the very heart of who they are, the damage to trust that stems from not getting justice will take a long time to heal. Hannah Miller, ITV News.
A 25-year-old man has been jailed for 15 years for throwing acid over his ex-girlfriend in a jealous rage. Wearing a disguise, Milad Rauf went to the young woman's home, threw sulfuric acid over her when she answered her door. She suffered life-changing injuries to her face, neck and chest. Now, the takeover of Newcastle United Football Club by a Saudi-led consortium has finally been given the go-ahead tonight. The Premier League approved the controversial £300 million deal, which ends Mike Ashley's equally controversial 14-year reign. It could see the club, currently second from bottom, become one of the wealthiest in the world. But the deal has been criticised by human rights groups. From Newcastle, here's Sangeeta Lal.
For these fans, their club holds the soul of the city. Forever passionate to protect it, but for years they felt it had almost been lost. Something that changed today.
We just want that magic again and the happiness for the crowd and the supporters. They need it. I mean, they're desperate for it because we're the best in the world, you know.
It would be great just to like have the club back, you know, like, because it's been like horrible, like, for years now.
It's just what the city needs. I've known nothing else but Mike Ashley in charge, and I'm just buzzing and I can't wait to see what the future holds.
Newcastle haven't been challengers for the Premier League title or a cup in decades, and fans say there is one man to blame. Mike Ashley's owned Newcastle United for 14 years, consistently criticised though for not investing in the club in the right ways. For former midfielder Lee Clark, his boss should have left long ago.
It was a hollow club, it was an empty club, it had no identity, it was sucking the life out of a fantastic group of supporters, and thankfully they'll hopefully have that mojo back, and you know, the atmosphere going forward will be electric in the stadium.
And it seems outside the stadium too. There is no concern about where this money is coming from. Saudi Arabia say it's from their public investment fund, but the chair of that is Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, accused of killing journalist Jamal Khashoggi, which the kingdom denies. Today, his fiancée and Amnesty International have come forward urging the Premier League to address the human rights issues. Former forward David Genoa says the deal is a lifeline for the club.
It doesn't matter if the money is coming from one part of the world or the other part of the world. In England, what is beautiful is you have people investing money from all around the world.
This is the moment people here have been waiting for. Finally, they say they have their club back, but others warn at what cost. So many people are celebrating across the city tonight, but there is real concern too about the message this deal sends. Today, the fiancée of Jamal Khashoggi, Khadija Jenga, said she's horrified the Crown Prince is getting what he wants. She says the Premier League should not cave in. This is a moment to show courage and principle. The kingdom denies any involvement in his death, but there is no doubt the significance of this deal tonight.
All right, thank you to that. That's St James Park. Thank you. Now, the Queen has launched her global relay ahead of next year's Commonwealth Games in Birmingham, handing a baton containing a special message to four-time Paralympic champion Kadina Cox. The baton will be passed by many through 72 nations and territories before arriving in the host city, where it will be finally read out. And finally tonight, if you've ever mislaid anything really important, you know you'd better have a good explanation. Now, unfortunately for tennis ace Andy Murray, his excuse for losing a sentimental treasure involved a pair of very smelly trainers. And as Robert Moore reports from California, that has put him firmly in the doghouse.
Hi everyone, how you doing? Got a quick story here for you I need a little bit of help with.
This was one of the strangest appeals you'll ever hear from a tennis player. It follows a mishap after this practice session that certainly took some explaining, not least to his wife. The problem was the smell of his trainers.
So I thought, I'm going to leave the shoes underneath the car to get some air to them and dry them out overnight. Anyway, when I got back to the car in the morning, the shoes were gone.
Then came the awful realization.
I was preparing for my practice. My physio said to me, "Where's your wedding ring?" And I was like, "Oh no." And I basically tie my wedding ring to my tennis shoes when I'm playing because I can't play with it on my hand. So yeah, my wedding ring's been stolen as well. So needless to say, I'm in the bad books at home. So I want to try and find it. So if anyone can share this or may have any clue where they may be, would be very helpful.
There's been no reaction from his wife Kim, who perhaps tactfully has not commented on the off-court drama out here. But his mother Judy may have best summed up the reaction of the family with this exasperated one emoji tweet. This appears to be the car park where it happened. So amid the tournament and Andy's epic comeback, the search goes on for a thief, a pair of trainers, and a missing wedding ring. How this all impacts his progress here, we will find out tomorrow, when Andy Murray plays his first match. Robert Moore, ITV News, Indian Wells in California.
Oh, Andy. And that is it for now. Julie's here with news at 10, but from me and all the team here. Bye-bye.